Welcome to A Delhi Love, Ishq Mohabbat Pyar, the podcast that treats Delhiwalas to captivating conversations on living and loving all things Delhi. Delhi is not just a place, it's a state of mind, an attitude that leaves a mark on everyone who visits or calls it home. I'm Yasmin Kidwai, your host, a documentary filmmaker, former municipal councillor, and at heart, the quintessential Delhi girl. I love how Delhi is both old and new at the same time. I value its history and heritage and love exploring the new aspects of the city we share. I'm no expert, but I grew up in the gullies here, enjoyed public service here, and just like you, shared a deep passion for Delhi's enigmatic soul. Together, let's embrace the delightful contradictions that make Delhi the city it is. After all, around every corner, there must be 1,000 dastans to share in this megacity of a million conversations. The word Kathak draws from the word Katha or story and often presents legends of Lord Krishna, Shiva and the Devi. Some historians say that Kathak dates back to the 4th century BC. Carvings on the wall of ancient temples and sculptures of the time serve as proof. The dance form then evolved in the shade of the kadam trees on the banks of the Ganga in the area we now call Uttar Pradesh. Eventually, Kathak became a prominent art form in the courts of kings and the mehfils of the elite. Delhi, with its regal past, could not of course remain immune to Kathak's charms, having been a significant centre for the arts for centuries. In the 20th century, many gurus of the dance form made Delhi their home, attracting aspiring dancers from across the country and beyond. Kathak recitals can now be enjoyed across the city in venues such as Sri Fort Auditorium, Kamani Auditorium and the India Habitat Centre, and many more. To me, Kathak is energy, strength, fluidity, and what I see as an underlying feminine energy that is communicated through the dancer's performance. Today we are meeting a strong personality and Kathak dancer of note, Aditi Mangaldas, who embodies all that I love about Kathak. Raised in Ahmedabad, Aditi Mangaldas now lives in Delhi. A disciple of Kumudini Lakhia and Birju Maharaj, Aditi's journey as a Kathak dancer is marked by a deep reverence for tradition, coupled with fearless innovation. She has constantly honed her dance skills, captivating audiences with her expressive storytelling, intricate footwork, and graceful movements. She is known to infuse her performances with emotion, spirituality, and a profound sense of connection to the audience. Aditi is also a dedicated teacher, passing on the legacy of Kathak to future generations with passion and commitment through the Aditi Mangaldas Dance Company and the Drishtikon Dance Foundation. Welcome, Aditi ji.
The word itself was about storytelling, Katha. That's a very beautiful aspect of Kathak actually, that it has incorporated within its repertoire both Islamic and Hindu cultures, and then also contemporary culture. For me, it's the significance of breath, Krishna as breath. So the gopis come to life only when Krishna is dancing with them in the Ras Leela. If you're a bamboo, you don't lose your identity in a storm because you learn to bend and adapt to that storm. If you're a huge, amazing tree, but that is inflexible, you may be uprooted. The first challenge is in any culture of this gender, of being a woman, whether as a dancer, as a professional or in a personal capacity. There is a beautiful aspect of Kathak called Chhed. I've seen my Guruji dancing it, both my Gurus, with such intense beauty. So I was just looking at the beauty of it. I didn't look at what message it was giving. It was giving a message, no is yes. When we rehearse, or this dedicated practice, which is actually sadhana, riyaz, is you gather, 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 gather. Eventually, to completely empty out when you enter the stage. But you can't do that if you haven't had these hours of riyaz. I've learnt only Kathak. My musicians who I work with are Kathak musicians. I have only taught Kathak. The dancers in my group productions or repertoire are also Kathak dancers. So it's a Kathak world. My contemporary work based on Kathak is not about dismantling Kathak. What I'm doing is, I would call it absorption. All the gurus of the Kathak Kendra, that was my institution, wrote to me saying, how can you call yourself a Kathak dancer if you don't even wear a dupatta? Yeah, like if when you go to see a Rothko painting, it's, to someone it's an abstract painting, but maybe the slash of blue across a red square has a narration.
I have to call you Gina.
Please call me Aditi.
But
Thank you so much.
We have met on multiple occasions, but your most striking memory for me is the Aarti at the Betwa Ghats in Madhya Pradesh when in Orcha.
Orcha, that's
right.
right.
And what a performer! So Namaste Orcha was this festival I had curated, and your performance, believe me, anywhere I go, the first introduction is about Namaste Orcha and about the Aarti, and that what an effect it had on everybody who was there.
It was, well, thank you first for having me here. Yasmin ji.
Okay, I got the point.
Let's remove all the G's.
Drop the G's.
Yeah. And thank you for having me. But as far as Orcha was concerned, it was an iconic performance for me, because that was the last performance before the whole world went into chaos in the terms of internal conflict and the pandemic, But it was so beautiful. I remember that night clearly. The river at the back, the atmosphere. And then later on we went to Shubhaji's performance. So those old trees,
the baobab tree, that
exactly.
That night is just
it's magical.
Yeah, and you were part of the magic.
And that the whole evening was something so, it's etched in my memory too.
Yeah.
And it became more significant because we realized what life was in those 2-3 years of the pandemic.
Yeah,
so
that was just before the pandemic, before the world shut down.
7th of March, I think. Slowly it sort of started approaching us, and we knew soon we would be in a lockdowns.
Really, but I wanted to start at the beginning about, and I wanted to understand a bit about Kathak from you. Some say that Kathak evolved from storytelling traditions around the temples of the Ganga. Others, there's also the how the patron and the court were important in developing Kathak as an art form. Some of the Nawabs of Awadh famously, performed Kathak at a great level of personal achievement. So, how has Kathak as an art form reached where it is today?
So, Yasmin, let me start by saying that I'm not a scholar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm informed by my history and geography, but not bogged down by it, I hope. So, I would not be able to give you a scholarly answer to that. However, the word itself, and there is debate about that too.
That too, I believe so.
So, but what we imbibed from our gurus, Kumudini Lakhya ji and the great Pandit Birju Maharaj ji, was that the word itself was about storytelling, katha.
Katha.
Yeah, somebody who narrates a story is a kathakar, is a storyteller. And the stories have evolved since then. The Kathakar has evolved since then. Life has evolved since then. And I feel, therefore, Kathak has been a great mirror for the change that is constant in life.
True.
You know?
That's beautifully put.
Yeah, so it was part of the repertoire of storytelling with very simple movements, simple gestures along the Gangetic Valley in the small temples. From it went into the great courts with their own aesthetics, and though the form remained the same, the intention changed. You know, and intention has to affect what you're dancing. How can it not? Then with the British, it was looked down upon, went into these small principalities, even into the so-called quotas, and with the independence brought onto the proscenium stage. So for me, it's been like a river that's constantly evolving, imbibing from if it's passing through a forest, it imbibes from the forest. If it passes through a concrete city, you see the city reflected in it. You can't have it otherwise, because otherwise it's a dead art form.
True.
So for me, Kathak is something that is like the breath of today. And if my stories don't evolve, then I'm not a Kathakar, actually.
That's in a very interesting way that you've put it. And also, you said that it imbibes and takes as it flows. Is that why it's seen as an embodiment of the Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb of India? Not was, but even today, it's seen as, as something which represents the syncretic culture of India, something which brings, cultures together. Yeah.
That's a very beautiful aspect of Kathak, actually, that it has incorporated within its repertoire both Islamic and Hindu cultures. It has, and then also contemporary culture. India is a cauldron of colors, of passions, of languages, of religions, and of different architecture, music, dance, and that can never be made into one aspect of looking at this country.
Yeah.
So it represents that, the whole idea of an entire palette of diversity.
Yeah, it comes across even till this day.
Yeah, when you see Kathak, there is a sense of this beautiful synthesis.
Yeah, there is. Synthesis is the right word. Yeah, I was looking for that. Synthesis.
It's not as if you've taken one thing and it's.
And does it also look forced together?
That's what exactly.
It's fluid. It's very fluid.
Exactly. It's like osmotic, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's for me, it's very important, even when I do what I call my contemporary work based on Kathak, that the seed you sow is the seed of Kathak, which has been watered with all the various influences and inspirations along the whole fabulous, challenging history of Kathak. That, and you water it with Kathak sensibilities that you get from all the gurus during the timeline, from your contemporaries, from what you observe today, from your students. A beautiful Kathak tree grows out. You water that seed with contemporary inputs, world music, different ways of looking at the spine, different ways of contact with the touch, different ways of connecting to storytelling. Because storytelling is not unidimensional, So if you look at storytelling in a multiple way, multiple ways, with multiple kinds of music and theatre. Another tree grows out that touches another part of the sky. So it's not about cutting a guava tree and putting it on a mango tree. It's about the generation from the seed itself.
The way you're describing it, it almost seems something spiritual. And it's true also to a certain extent, because there are all these stories of the Ras Leela and Lord Krishna performing with the gopis. And that also has this, the Kathak is somehow related to that. Am I right?
Absolutely. And also the whole omnipresence of the entity of Krishna. If you ask me personally, Yasmin, I don't find my spirituality in any organized religion. I find it in humanity. So I've often been asked, because I am not a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or, as I said, relate to any one religion. So I've often been asked, how do you dance Krishna? How do you dance a god who's from the great Hindu tradition, and Hindu religion? For me, all are scriptures. And when I mean are, I mean Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever great writing and scriptures are a reservoir of imagination. And imagination, who said it? I think it was Einstein, is far greater than knowledge. So it is this intense imagination of the entity of Krishna. Just see, from time immemorial, that figure has influenced music, dance, theatre, painting, architecture, sculpture, you name it. Life itself. And you just took the words out of my mouth. So I say, Krishna, you are life. You can't be a man or a woman. You can't be even God. Because Achal, Achyut, Muralidhar, Yogeshwar, Yashodanandan, so many things. You do so many things. So how can only life can be the embodiment of you? So these are my entry points when I'm dancing. And though the Ras Leela has a great significance, and for me, it's the significance of breath. Krishna as breath. So the gopis come to life only when Krishna is dancing with them in the Ras Leela. Because you are dead if you're not breathing. And so this is the way I look at our ancient texts, paintings, sculptures of this intense depth of imagination that adds intense color to it. It's like the universe within one tiny lifetime.
That's beautifully put. To me personally, I always found Kathak to be this energetic, strong, fluid, but yet very feminine dance form. Frankly, it's all that I find that you embody so much of these qualities. There is strength and there is this energy which comes in your performance, and yet this beautiful feminine energy. There seems to be no contradiction between the strength and the femininity of it. Am I right? What does Kathak mean to you personally?
I mean, it's first and foremost, it's, as I said, because it's a synthesis and it did not shun change. It adapted. Can you imagine how contemporary the dancer who went from the temple to the court would have been? So it is this idea of fluidity. Isn't there a saying that says that if you're a bamboo, you don't lose your identity in a storm because you learn to bend and adapt to that storm. If you're a huge, amazing tree, but that is inflexible, you may be uprooted. And that has egged me on, that quality of Kathak, of this possibility of looking at life as is. And what is life? It is strength and vulnerability together. It's the feminine aspect and strength, which is also a feminine aspect. So strength and vulnerability, masculine, feminine, all like a half embrace, constantly within the form.
Okay, now I want to take you back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I believe you were just 5 years old when you started learning Kathak.
Yes, so I have been told. I don't have...
It was clearly not your decision.
No. I don't have a memory of this, but my parents mentioned it so often that it's become like a memory. I lived with my paternal grandmother and my parents in Ahmedabad, a huge Gujju family, and she was the matriarch. So every evening there would be the rest of the family. One day, 50 people, 60 people, 200.
Oh, that many, okay.
Yeah. Huge. Extended family, of course. They would all descend. And apparently, there was a little table and I would climb on it.
Yes, I read that.
And share my joy, I presume, at that age, through movement. So my parents thought that probably there was some gene, artistic gene, though my mother wanted to dance as a young girl, and her father didn't allow her to. So they were very keen and they put me through dance, music, even fine arts, even the community science center, because, there's somehow apparently a very connection between the scientific brain and the artistic. And slowly everything fell aside.
You didn't, kind of rebel when your parents push you towards something?
No, it was not pushing me. They put me in a class which I went a few times, and then my school friend used to go to another class doing Kathak. And I said, I want to go and see that. I mean, we were 5-year-olds. So I went to that class and I fell in love with my guru, who was Kumudini Lakhiaji.
Oh, she was your first guru?
Yeah, I was 5. My mother used to send milk because I would listen to her and not to. Again, a story that I don't remember. And I fell in love with her and I said, no, not that class, this class. So actually, Yasmin, I grew up in a family there was nothing forced. And nothing was written in stone.
That's so lovely, not to have that kind of...
Yeah, that kind of. So they were they were constantly encouraging debate, questioning, agreeing, not agreeing, crazy arguments, but with unconditional love. And I think, so I don't have a memory of them forcing. In fact, it was something that just encouraged
you further
to have the courage to break norms. And at this point, if I may, I would like to add that I also went to a very interesting school. It is Shreyas, it's still running. And I was just mentioning the other day, I was sharing in a talk that my first public performance was when I was 6. Not in Kathak, but in Manipuri, which I did in school. And And though it was a school performance, I want you to imagine the stage, because it was an amphitheater of 3,000 people in this school. Amphitheater built by no other than B.V. Doshi, the Pritzker prize-winning architect. And as a child, this memory I have of the stage, a huge stage. I mean, there's 3,000 people in the audience. And the curtain there was a water body that separated the stage and the amphitheater. And he had designed the curtain as a set of fountains that shot up, and you put light on it. So set changes happened backstage, but the audience couldn't see it. So it was
magical.
Magical, yeah. And I remember this quite clearly. And I have one photograph of it where I was a peacock dancing Manipuri.
And after learning with Mudni Lakhaji, you then learned with Pandit Birju Maharaj ji.
Hanji.
You came to Delhi.
I came to Delhi.
To learn from him.
To learn from him. Yes.
Okay. And what was the push? But then you were serious. How?
I was 22. So I was with Kumi Ben from age 5 to 22. At which point I felt something of me was not dancing. I didn't know what. I was too young. I had just finished college and graduated with mathematics. And I was, there are a few mathematicians in my family. So maybe in 24 hours, for 10 minutes, I would think, oh, shall I pursue that?
Okay.
But the rest was dance. So it wasn't that I became a professional. It just became part of my life as I was growing up. And this need of something missing, I communicated with Kumi Ben. That I don't know what it is, Kumi Ben. You know, I know that you are a great guru, but there's something I need to explore. And of course, Maharaji is the font, the base of the whole, the tradition of the Lucknow Gharana of Kathak. You know, and I knew him. He had come to Ahmedabad and he and my guru, Kumi Ben, were very close to each other. So I said I would like to go to him, and she said yes, of course. And so when I came to Delhi, I was lucky because my aunt was living in Delhi, so I had a place to stay. And it was the first day, again I fell in love with the form. You know, because he was the most magical teacher. He had life similes to teach. And the first day I entered thinking, oh, well, I'm 22. I've danced so much in my life. I've traveled all over the world. And it was amazing. One little question he asked me. It was a very, very simple movement. And he said, what is your heart saying about this? I know what your body is saying. Probably you've learned what your mind is interpreting it as. So something like that. What is it? And it was, again, those few years. I was with him till 1986. So 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. And every moment was a learning experience. So, yeah, these two gurus. And then at the end of it, again, I felt something in me is not dancing. And I decided that, again, I had traveled with him actually to many parts of the world. I just said, let me take my own steps. I'll fall. I'll get up. I'll learn. Won't have performances for a while. Who knows? So they're like a banyan tree. They're so gurus, if you have a question, they'll have an answer. But if you go out and you say you don't have an answer, so you strive to find your own answer. And you learn to walk again. And then life becomes your greatest guru.
And then you moved down.
I was in Delhi.
Yeah, I was going to ask. You chose to stay in Delhi.
I chose to stay in Delhi. And as I said, got up, had nothing to do for months. But I think there was a huge learning experience.
Why did you stay on in Delhi instead of going by?
I felt it was the hub at that point I still do, of Delhi, of dance and of Kathak. So I could have gone back to Ahmedabad or Bombay, because that's where the rest of my family is. But I don't know. Delhi became, I've been here for, now it seems like ever.
Does it have any role to play in your journey as a dancer? What does Delhi mean to you?
It's strange. I recently did a film for Sadler's Wells in London. And they asked me that question and I said, it's strange I'm here. But my home is where my family is and where my dance is and my dance family is. So it could have been anywhere, honestly. I don't have any special connection to either Delhi or Ahmedabad or Bombay. It's where this dance family has grown. My own family, though they are not living in Delhi, but there's a kind of unconditional love, doesn't matter where I live. And dance is hopefully in my mind, in my heart, in my body, wherever I am. So, to be honest, I can't say that it's had any great impact. Except I feel as if I'm in the center of that Kathak universe.
I think that's because of the kind of culture and like we're talking the Ganga, Jamuna, synthetic and synthetic.
Yes,
I think that is what
probably. And Maharaji being here for so many years. So though from 86 I was on my own, I think lot of that, somehow I never thought of moving back. And I'm a city person. So I like living in cities. And I'm lucky to live in scenic farms. So you get the
best of both.
Yeah.
I've seen your lovely house and with the light right on the
edge of the deer park. Yeah, exactly.
Kathak is such a large part. Everything about you, of your life and everything about you, you talk about it, that it is life itself to you. Has it shaped your personal life's journey and decisions in any way? Or is there just no difference?
Yasmin, it's strange. It hasn't been as though anything could have been different because dance was with me since a very young age. Not forced on me. I was not given a choice, either dance or, let's say, my parents never said, now you need to get married. There were no
silos, sort of it.
Conditioned road signs.
Or boxes.
No. Yeah. And I think I was lucky to be in that family and to have gurus like Maharaji and Kumiben. So, my personal and professional is again syncretic. And of course, as women, we all have issues. And in fact, there was a huge cathartic time in my life when I was only dancing women's issues. I was probably pushing through barriers in my personal life as a woman.
Through dance.
Through dance. Yeah. And so obviously those things happened, but it wasn't as if two parallel journeys. It was a syncretic journey that I felt I wanted it to be not even closely woven, but osmotic within each other.
But it has, that's what I was asking. It has been like that. Like, if you are your dance, then...
Yeah, it's sort of syncretic, which doesn't mean that of course, there are challenges. You can be a dancer, a musician, a non-dancer. The first challenge is in any culture of this gender, of being a woman, whether as a dancer, as a professional, or in a personal capacity, with your relationships, in terms of even with your parents, your siblings, your children, your partners. There's always, and we feel we are not conditioned.
But we are.
Because we are a result of everyday interactions. And so even though we are aware to those, some things, obviously, it's like
they seep in.
Yeah.
They seep in.
They seep in.
Yeah, true.
And that reflects in your life, reflects in one's dance. And let's say, I just share an example. There's a beautiful aspect of Kathak called Chhed-Chhad. I've seen my Guruji dancing it, both my Gurus, with such intense beauty. So I was just looking at the beauty of it. I didn't look at what message it was giving. It was giving a message, no is yes. Constantly reinforcing it through many thumris that I was dancing. Much of it written by men, much of it part of their imagination.
Yes, true.
Much of it of how it's interesting, this game.
Between man and woman.
Yeah, but which is always one-sided. So, it's strange how it came to me. And it was quite recent. So I was dancing it till much of my adult life. When suddenly I said, but what am I dancing? I'm dancing constantly. I don't want you to touch my hand, but you're touching it. I don't want you to disturb me while I go about my work, but you're disturbing me and it's pleasuring me. Is it? And what if it's not happening two ways? There's always teasing in a relationship. But teasing is when it's open both ways. Equality. Yeah. Otherwise, it becomes a form of harassment. And it's constantly reinforced in the most beautiful poetry, writing.
And we often just look at that, the beauty of it. Yeah. But that's conditioning also.
It's very much conditioning. Even very often how we bring up girl, child, or the male also. It's conditioning, small little things that we mention.
True. You brought up one child yourself?
Yes.
And how was the journey of building with an amazing career blooming at the same time?
Insane journey. Yeah. He's, as I say, my full life. And I have a granddaughter now.
Oh,
yes.
really? Congratulations.
Thank you. She's 10 months old. So, again, one of the most beautiful aspects of being alive is being able to give birth to somebody who has a fabulous integration of genes that have gone, so many. And I think again, there was no aspect of, I was very lucky to have, of course there were problems, and he was an insanely naughty child.
Okay.
But yeah, he's grown up with a father now. So.
And was it tough, those years with the career? Because I felt like those years of having small babies and working has been...
I've forgotten them. Yes, I'm sure. Yes, of course.
Women, that, you have to forget the pain of childbirth to be able to give have a baby again.
Yes, absolutely. And it's sort of the whole process. I remember giving birth and telling my grandmom that, oh my God, I was told all my life that in 1 second you're going to be in love and you're going to, and she said, just chill. Slowly you'll see these tentacles around your heart. And it's incredible how love of a child suddenly engulfs you.
The most beautiful love.
Yeah, it's unconditional. So it doesn't have, you give me, you scratch my back, and there's this beautiful, and he's my biggest critic. So,
of course.
Yeah.
Now tell me, Riyaz is a fundamental part of any artist. Like, how do you approach the practice of, Kathak in your everyday life? You practice every day?
Yes, practically every day. It's, I often ask, if you don't enjoy the journey, it's not about that performance or reaching there. It's about that arduous, often immersive, often full of joy, often full of pain journey that you have to be passionately in love with.
The process.
The journey. And if you are, then Riyaz is part of it. There are no shortcuts. So to get that, when we rehearse or this dedicated practice, which is actually sadhana, Riyaz, is you gather. Eventually, to completely empty out when you enter the stage. But you can't do that if you haven't had these hours of Riyaz. Sometimes it doesn't mean that you tie your ghungroos and go for it. Sometimes you go for it. At times, I like to be on my own and just roam in the rehearsal room. Just sit and look out, and suddenly some thought pops. And it's those silent moments when it seems the creative synapses pass the electricity between them.
Yeah, so your whole life is kind of built around this schedule, or does anything else fit in?
No, I hope life fits in. Yeah, so it's not a burden, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it is a part of your life.
Yeah. So if it's a burden, then I have to do it. Okay,
it's
so
what you are, I guess.
It's part of my life. So Riyaz karna is like khana, utke aap coffee piyoge, So maybe for 1 week I don't do it. But I feel happiest when
You are.
Yeah. But the body everything needs to rest, to rejuvenate. I also feel to let yourself be multidimensional. And that at times I miss. Because I love to travel. I'm very fortunate to be able to travel. But when you're traveling on a dance tour, it's like,
yeah,
you see the hotel, the theater, and the hotel, and the flight, and the airport, and you're back. So I would love to meet people from different walks of life. And I keep having this sort of FOMO, that I need to go to many more exhibitions than I go to, listen to much more music than I listen to, maybe do things. And the older you get, it's much more important to challenge the mind, the body, to doing things that you have basically not wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah. I think it energizes you. And I would really, every year I tell myself, next year I'm going to pick up something which has been challenging all my life, wanting to do it well. So those are kind of things, like join a book club. I would love to. I don't know any book clubs in Delhi.
It's on my list also. I was like, I want to join.
Yeah. So if you come across any book club in Delhi, please
tell join me. Together.
We'll join together. Or things like that. And even exploring with restaurants.
Yeah, as simple as that.
As simple as that.
Yeah.
And of course, tougher things like, mountaineering. I don't think I'll ever be able to do it. I have a fear of heights. But at least go somewhere where you can climb a little hill at least.
But if people are, people who look at your Instagram page know that you travel a lot and you see this lovely, I'm constantly looking and I never talk to her about this.
Yeah, I do I'm very, very grateful for that.
But, you've been known to be quite an innovator in the field in your approach, let me say, in your approach to Kathak. And you have this great mastery of the art form that cannot be doubted. But you still innovate a lot with the form. Is it somehow the mastery which enables the emotion? You can't break the rules till you know the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, as I said, I've already answered that question in the beginning when I talked about not cutting a guava tree and putting it on a mango tree. So, not learning, yahan se thoda liya, yahan se, dal do. Nahi. I've learnt only Kathak. My musicians who I work with are Kathak musicians. My students, I have only taught Kathak. The dancers in my group productions or repertoire are also Kathak dancers. So, it's a Kathak world. But if I need to explore a story, right? That is burning me. It needs to burn an artist for that artist to produce something of at least one tries to have of any meaning. Yeah. So what should I do if in my the furthermost parameter of Kathak, I'm not able to say that story? Maybe other dancers can. It's what happens then? Do I tell the human lineage, which is far greater than the Kathak lineage? Sorry, forget this. Or do I find a way through this Kathak body to tell the story? So I feel my contemporary work based on Kathak is not about dismantling Kathak because I'm dancing Kathak every day. 80% of my performances are in the Kathak repertoire, format, So I'm not dismantling the form. What I'm doing is, I would call it absorption. The seed of Kathak that is absorbing different influences, narratives. Let's say the yoga spine. Let's say the colory way of moving. How do animals move? Is it possible for this Kathak body with an erect spine to have a flow in the spine? What does it mean if the spine is on the floor? So eventually it will be a Kathak mind, body and heart responding. But the absorption makes the body unlearn and learn.
You very interestingly refer to this as yourself as the Kathak body, which is doing everything.
Yeah, because it is, I've not learned anything else. I've done workshops. So if I want to do a work that requires my spine on the floor, I'm not going to just do 2 classes. I've had yoga, of course, has been part of my life since I was young. But a Kalaripetu teacher who would come for many years to train me and the repertory, or a contemporary dance teacher who understands I'm not going to go on to stage to do contemporary work. He or she understands that it's absorbing into this body. Touch, let's say. We don't have the aspect of 2 bodies touching each other in Kathak. How do you bring in touch? So you're not going like this, but you're melting into the other body. Or even floor. How do you go onto the floor? Not like this, but melting into the floor, letting the gravity pull you down, which is very different from what happens in Kathak, because we take the strength of the gravity. So you're grounded on the floor, but with that
you move,
you reach the sky.
Now that's why you called a maverick in the. But you very famously declined the Sangeet Natak Academy Award. That caused quite a controversy.
Yeah, so there were 2 Sangeet Natak Academy Awards that I declined.
2? Okay, well.
I think one was in 2007. It was the Gujarat State Sangeet Natak Academy Award. I'm not a great fan of the current political leadership in the country, and they were in power in 2007. And so when I got the award, I just felt that any art cannot exist in an atmosphere of fear. I just didn't feel it right to accept it from a government that I felt was, in a way, not encouraging diversity. And so that was the first one. The second one had nothing to do with anything in terms of who was in power. The second award was in 2013, the National Sangeet Natak Academy Award, and they gave it to me I didn't even know, by the way. When I heard that, I got very excited because I presumed it was in Kathak.
Yes, yeah.
So, for exactly 24 hours, I was on cloud 9. And then somebody called me and said, Acha, you, and I said, hey, hold on. So, what is it in then, if not Kathak? And it was an experimental and creative dance. So I'm a learner, experimental, all dance styles, classical dance styles or any form of dance or any form of art is creative. If you're not creative. So first of all, I don't understand this nomenclature. And experimental means what? What's that genre? So basically, it was kind of in this contemporary genre that, and I felt that it was like a statement to the new generation of Kathak dancers. That if you dare to look at our heritage and dare to at times break the form, you will never be remembered as a Kathak dancer.
No, you saw it like that.
Yeah. And I spoke to a whole lot of people. And they said, what does it matter? Just take it. I said, no, matters to me. I will not. And I wrote to them that I'm sorry. And actually, I was, because all the gurus of the Kathak Kendra, which is where I learned, that was my institution, wrote to me saying, how can you call yourself a Kathak dancer if you don't even wear a dupatta? And that statement just completely freaked me out. Because what do you mean? How far in history do you go back? First question. Because
I read several of those exchanges.
Yes. Only men danced Kathak. So they have three-dimensional by birth and we need it. Women. Somebody said it adds a three-dimension to form. I mean, your musculature, your spine adds three-dimensional, not a little dupatta. My guru, Kumudini Lakhya, my first Kathak solo performance was at the age of 16. You know, it's the coming out. I never had a dupatta at all.
Then?
No. I had no say in this, in my costuming. She had just taken me and said, color, which do you like? She designed the costume for me. Not even here or nowhere. It was a peshwas and chudidar. So what do you mean? And they were boxing me. And I was so happy then that I said no. And in my later...
Take on everybody at the same time. And those exchanges.
It was sort of disheartening that after so many years, you're not still considered a Kathak dancer. And then I said, it's okay. It's fine.
You also took a stand for a younger dancer.
Oh yeah, because somebody was asked to wear a dupatta when they were coming.
Asked to be taken off for the dance
yes.
form, and you argued a lot about the role of the dupatta.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's regressive. It is not required. A dupatta is there for context, aesthetics. It's not, sometimes I wear a dupatta when I feel my context, the aesthetics.
So the costume has to be in context to the story that you're telling?
The context of the story, the content of the story, the aesthetics that you want to convey, the aesthetics of your stage. It has nothing to do with the form. Because actually, how far back in history do you go? How do you bring in the lehenga and it was danced only by men. So initially. So at some point, what they call creativity and creation came in. And that was the... But then much later, I was making a piece called Within, which is about... Actually, it was a response initially to the horrific gang rape. Because we were working on a piece...
You're talking about the Delhi gang rape.
Delhi gang rape. Yeah, the Nirbhaya one. We were talking about the Shiva-Shakti relationship. And we were building a piece on that. And this happened. And it was impossible to work on that piece anymore. So the entire trajectory of the piece changed into relationship between, first it went into man and woman. Then even we removed the gender from it, and it became about the embrace within yourself of brutality and humanity. That what is it that makes you so brutal, and how is it possible to bring out your humanity? So there's a beautiful, profound quote by the philosopher J. Krishnamurti, that only in the finding of I'm not quoting him because I don't remember the exact, in the mirror, if you find the mirror that reflects exactly who you are, then you know who you are, and you are able to see this intertwining of the brutality and humanity within yourself. But if you are not prepared to look at the mirror, so what I did is, it starts with men and women in dupattas, but all across the face, because it conveys the human inability of seeing what is. So I was very happy with that.
I've seen the pictures from that.
Yeah.
I get the feeling, and you can correct me if I'm completely wrong about this, that Indian dance forms are always about the story, but not so much the Western dance. Is that not all Western dance, at least? Am I correct? That's more about the form, and we are more about
I think we are a nritya and natya. And, that is a beautiful relationship between the form, which is nrit, which is pure dance. We are one of, I think probably, I mean, I don't know, one of the few dance forms in the world that uses gestures, to narrate small stories or stories, in its physicality of the structure of, let's say, the bee, or the actual, the fluttering of the bee, and also abhinaya. So the whole concept of the inner. So I won't say I don't know much about Western dance. So as I said, I'm no scholar, but there are some choreographers who have wanted it to be extremely abstract. But there's a story in abstraction also. There is a story of just the gaze in abstraction. Yeah, like when you go to see a Rothko painting, to someone it's an abstract painting, but maybe the slash of blue across a red square has a narration, has a thought process, which is, so I can't give a scholarly answer to that.
I'm just listening to it, I'm feeling perhaps there can be no art without a story. Actually,
I mean, without the movement of whether you want the story to be apparent or not.
But there is a story within the artist.
Within the artist themselves. Yeah.
You've kind of really pushed the boundaries of traditional storytelling with your work. We've talked about journeys within. You worked, done work in the poetry of Pablo Neruda. You've talked about, you danced about, sexuality, like we just discussed, and you often tell stories that are more modern in the material. Am I correct? What do you hope that audiences take away from your Kathak performances?
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily that they are modern, because they are like Forbidden was about female sexual desire. There's nothing modern about it. It's a time immemorial from when. It's about why is the world scared of
why forbidden?
Why forbidden? Exactly. Why is sexual desire, and why are women who have the courage to own it? Why are they sanctioned, judged, controlled, and put into little compartments and eventually punished? So why? It's very ancient, in fact. So there's, at the same time, immersed is about looking at Krishna as life. I've used some traditional poetry, modern poetry. So I would not necessarily say that. Why it gives that perception is probably, I don't know, is that when you say immersed, it's about Krishna's life. There is Mirabai in it, there is Bhartendu Harishchandra in it, there are all the 108 names of Krishna in it, you know, which would be medieval poetry, little more contemporary poetry. But it's done by a woman who's living in 2024. I need this, what I'm breathing in, to breathe into that work also. So probably it gives that, but it's not necessarily ancient or modern or anything. Can't be classified.
What do you hope the audiences take away from your performance?
See, I have always hoped that it's not a full stop. And it's like they see it and it somewhere resonates, the resonance. So later on, they add their own little story to it. So it's like you say a sentence and leave it open-ended rather than a full stop.
Yeah.
This is what I dance. This is what it is. Take it or leave it. No. This
it remains fluid.
Fluid. Yeah. For the viewer, for me also.
Yeah, for you.
Because sometimes they come backstage and they said, this had this feeling. And I said, oh my God, really? I never thought of that. That's amazing. That's one more layer to what I'm trying to dance.
And does that reflect in your future performances?
Yeah, because it remains in my psyche that there was, and very often it happens, some movement which I've thought of, and I've opened this window and I'm not bothered to look sideways. I've looked straight through it. And someone comes and tells me because the piece has opened that window for them. And I say, oh wow, that was there. But I didn't see it.
Throughout a conversation, one sense I get from you is that you're always so open to learning. You're a teacher now. There is the Shrikon Foundation is there. The Aditi Dance School is there.
No, I don't really teach. I have only 4 students. I'm very proud of them because they have hundreds of students. I'm till I can. I'm a performer first, then a choreographer, and then a teacher. But when I like to learn, hopefully, isn't doubt a beautiful feeling to have? Because doubt makes you question.
Oh, you put it beautifully. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Because otherwise it's a full stop.
Or
I mean, I know
also,
it. Yeah, I know it. If I know it, then, okay, it's only about skill then. But if one wants to go a little beyond skill, and the older you get, you are not going to be as skill in terms of at least your energy, your youthful body. It's not going to be that at age 30.
But you put it so beautifully, if I said, because, okay, I'm not to judge, but basically, anybody who's reached a certain stage, the higher they reach in the professional, in their career or their achievements, and here you are, you at the peak, and you're still open to learning, and that's such a lovely thing that that there is still that thing of doubt which pushes the.
I hope so, Yasmin, because otherwise, it's you get so trapped in your own successes and your own little daira that you've made, and the tried and the tested. So, I mean, ideally one would love to reinvent oneself every time. It's much more difficult to do. But even if there's a little of it, you know, so you don't get typecast as inki style hai ye.
True.
Yeah.
When you were talking that, you're quite open to taking feedback from the audience. What for you has been a very memorable performance? In terms of, audience feedback or you in the moment, what has been a performance that really stands out for you?
I honestly can't pinpoint one performance. Yeah, because every performance is as if you're entering this new world.
Every time.
Yeah, every time. Sometimes it doesn't happen. You are attempting. Sometimes you don't attempt and it happens. Sometimes there's more complete meditative quality, which is great because you're so empty that you're just dancing. Sometimes you're saying no, karo, finish it. So every performance, and it's amazing how it's not about just dancing to an audience, it's about sharing with the audience. So even if there's not somebody going wah 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 every 2 minutes, there is a connection. That connection you feel. And you can't feel it if that whole journey that I talked about, which is about emotion, and dedicated riyaz doesn't happen.
It's part of the process.
Yeah.
I'm just referring to the beginning before we end. You talked about how you started your dance journey and how supportive the family was, and you were never pushed into it. What's the advice you can give to aspiring Kathak dancers today? Who just starting their journey?
Well, that if you don't enjoy the journey, then it's not for you. Not the end, but the journey. Be fearless as much as one can. All of us have fears. I have tons. Passion. Abandon. Humility. Yeah. And the ability to really put your head down and say thank you to everything, everybody. There's no harm in acknowledging inspirations. There's no harm in saying, I didn't know. You can't know everything.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely and very lived advice.
Yeah. Mera to lived hai, experienced, because scholarly, I've never been a scholar. So whatever was accumulated as a young girl, it's somewhere there.
And constant for you, like you said, you're constantly.
Yeah, it was, one is not. So if you ask me, कि इस book में ये लिखा था, I'll say, भाई, go to a scholar. They'll be able to, opine better. Sorry, my eyes are like.
That's okay. This happens to me also.
And I'm also very emotional, so sometimes they well up also. Okay, done.
No, but thank you so much. And the like I said, that how when I started the show, that you're so much a part of my memory and psyche, because the performance you gave at Orcha was something which will always stay with me. But I hope it's not going to be a last work together.
Yeah.
And I hope that we can, create something really, really beautiful again.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for being on Delhi Love. And
thank you so much. And I'm on Delhi Love. Thank you for having me. But as I said, it's brought me my dance in a way since I came here, because I was here with Maharaj Ji. but it's home is where love is.
Thank you, Aditi ji. Through a Delhi love, we meet people who live in Delhi and work here making Delhi what it is. And I have to say, I've always enjoyed my interactions with you. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. I look forward to seeing you perform on stage very soon. Join us next time as we explore Delhi's hidden gems, people, places and stories on Delhi Love, Ishq Mohabbat Pyar. I'm Yasmin Kidwai. Until next time.